I consider the heavens of the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained. What is a man that you are mindful of him, and the son of a man that you visit him? For you have made him a little lower than the angels, and you have crowned him with glory and honor. You have made him the demon over the works of your hands. You have put the things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, even the beasts of the field, the birds of the air, and the fish of the sea, that pass through the paths of the seas. O Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth. Prayer and thanksgiving for the Lord's righteous judgments. When their eyes shall back, they shall praise your presence. You have maintained firmly in the cause. You said, one prayer of judgment and righteousness you have destroyed the wicked, you have blotted out your name forever and ever. You have destroyed cities, even their memory has perished, but the Lord shall endure forever. He has prepared this land for judgment. He shall judge the world in righteousness, and he shall administer judgment on the people in uprightness. The Lord also will be the refuge for the oppressor, the refuge in times of trouble, and those who know your name will put their trust in you. For you, Lord, have not forsaken those who seek you. Sing praises unto the Lord who dwells in Zion, declare his statutes among the people. Because he remembers them, he does not forget the cry of the humble. Have mercy on me, O Lord, consider my trouble, for those who hate me. Who will lift me up from the gates of death, that I tell myself of the praise in the gates of death. I will rejoice. The Lord is not about judgment, and his accepting wicked is snare, and the works of his enemies. Meditation, the wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forgot God. For the needy who shall not always be forgotten, the expectations of the poor shall not perish forever. Arise, O Lord, do not let men prevail. Let the nations be judged into your sight, put them in the fear, O Lord. That the nations may know themselves, be but the men. Why do you stand afar off, O Lord? Why do you hide in the times of trouble? The wicked in his pride prosecutes the poor. Let them be caught in the plots which they have devised. For the wicked boasts of his heart's desire. He blesses the greedy and penetrances the rude. The wicked is his pride. The wicked boast in his heart is blessed. Hey. Alright, now I'm gonna sit this up here because I'm not done reading. I read my first part. Now I'm gonna do my morning prayer. I'm gonna do my morning prayer. Give me a second, guys. Okay. All right, guys. Good morning. How is everybody? How's everybody doing today? I got any mods in here? So, good morning, Wendy. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Here, let's sit here so it blows with me this way, okay? How's that? How's that? You feel it? Okay, good girl. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, Anita. How are you? It's going to be a hot one already. What's the weather where everybody's at? I'm sure it's like 90 here. '71. Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, it's going to be hot everywhere today. We're supposed to get storms about 12 o'clock here. And for the person, Sunflower, my gifts that I'm doing now, yesterday and the day before, we only get paid on Mondays by TikTok. So that's for next week, baby, not this week. It's for next week, not this week. TikTok starts it resets on Sunday night. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will be all this week. And then it'll reset this coming Sunday night for next week. So all the money that I'm making this week, I'll get paid on Monday. This coming Monday. You only get paid once a week from TikTok. So it's not like I raised the money yesterday to get a room yesterday, because it doesn't work that way. Yeah, we only get paid once a week by TikTok, and it's Mondays. They reset every Sunday night. So what I made on Monday, Tuesday, and yesterday, and today, and tomorrow, and Saturday, and half of Sunday will go on for Monday. So I try to set a goal every day. I try to set a $60 goal every day. So when Monday comes, I can get a room for as many days as possible. Okay. Yeah, I just didn't know if you were a troll, because you know how the trolls come in here, and I try to give people the benefit of the doubt when they ask the question. So, yeah, so everything from this week I'll get paid on Monday. I'll look at my amount Sunday night and see what I have Sunday night when it resets. And then I'll go online and I'll book a hotel for as many days as I can. And then I usually check in on Monday when I get paid. And that's how I do it. It's cheaper to book online than what it is to walk into a hotel, because if you walk in, they charge you more. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. And some people have messaged me and said that they would prefer to send me a VEN than to send the gifts, because they know with the VEN I'm getting all of it. And some people will send gifts. So, but it is helping me in Brooklyn. It's helping us get a room. We have to wait today to see if this shelter calls me back to get into a shelter. The counselor called me late last night. It was about 8:30, 9 o'clock. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. A counselor called me late last night. I don't remember what time it was. I don't know. What time was it, Wendy? 8:30, 9 o'clock she called? 8:30? And she said they were still working on it. And she would call me sometime today. So hopefully we can get into the shelter. I mean, the shelter's only a temporary stay. Some are 30 days, some are 60, some are 90. But they, while you're in the shelter, you work with the case management and you work with a caseworker, and they try to get you into transitional housing, or they try to get you into income-based apartment. So I'm praying that I can get into an apartment, because they'll also help me with my first month's rent and my first month's security, as long as I can afford the rent. These flies are terrible this morning. And I got some in this car I'm trying to get rid of. I put my fly net up so they don't come in, but I do got a couple in the car. Put my fly net up on my window so they can't come in here. But I still got a couple in here I'm trying to kill. They're driving me crazy. I can't stand flies. They're irritating. Sorry, Mommy. Sorry. I wasn't hitting you, honey. I was trying to hit the fly. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get you. I swear I am. Land somewhere where I can get you, because you're getting on my nerves. It's like 2 or 3 of them. I'm trying to get them because they're driving me crazy. You know, as I was saying last night, guys, some people, they never gossip about how I help them, but they'll sure enough kick dirt on my name with the same shoes that I gave them. You know, it's terrible. It's terrible that people do that. You know, and then you got people on here saying, oh, she thinks she's all that. No, I'm not. I'm far from it. I'm far from all that. They think I'm all that. They see something in me that they lack in themselves. So they're threatened. And that's why they stalk me. Because they can't accomplish nothing themselves. They need somebody else to make them accomplish something. Like streaming me and making gifts off of me. So they have to use somebody else as bait. And they call it awareness. That ain't no awareness. Tearing people's dignity down and tearing people's, you know, self-worth down and degrading them and all that stuff. That ain't awareness. That ain't awareness. Thank you, Wendy. I think I've accomplished a lot. I think I've accomplished a lot surviving in this car. Because some people probably wouldn't have been able to do it. You know, I think I've accomplished a lot in this car, surviving another day out here in the heat and getting through the heat through the day. You know, sleeping up in the seat all night, my legs swollen up and in pain. I don't think half of the people that are streaming me could even survive a weekend. No, baby. No. Yeah. That's what I said. So I've accomplished getting through another day of survival. You know, and people don't understand that. You know, like you said, you would go crazy sitting that long. You know, but if you don't have a car that runs, you know, you can only move it here and there because it's got issues. You can't DoorDash, you can't Instacart. I mean, I was doing all that before my car broke down. There's my car. You know what I mean? I was Instacart and I was DoorDashing. I was doing all the things I needed to do to take care of me. But if my car is not runnable, it's not drivable because it needs a good tune-up and timing chains, you know, that I can't afford right now. So yeah, I'm going crazy, you know, but I'm trying to survive another day and get through it. You know, in this heat, it's torture. It's hot, you know, no air conditioning. I got to survive on little fans and swamp coolers, but the swamp cooler don't work in the heat because it's the ice melts too fast. They only work at nighttime. You know, sitting up in the seat and sleeping every night. It takes a toll on your body. Yeah, but the thing is, Lacey, is I try not to drive my car too far. The more you drive it, the worse the condition's going to get. You know? And I don't want to take that chance of driving to go to the park and the chain pop and blow my motor. If I could go to church, definitely I'd be in church. Believe that. If I can make it to a church on Sunday, yeah, I'd definitely be there. Definitely. But churches around here, the only thing they give you is food. They won't help you with shelter. Delaware is the worst state for help. The worst state. Because they have no resources at all. And all the shelters are run by one number. They put you on the list. You call in every day. Oh, dude started his car and turned the AC on. Can I sit in there with you? Do I have a plan? Well, yeah, I have a plan, but it's not a good one. You know, my plan is to try to get in the shelter. My plan is to try to get in the shelter so I could be there 30 or 60 or 90 days. Get help with housing, something that I've been doing for the past 3 years, putting applications in, getting on waiting list. I've done Easton, Salisbury, Cambridge, Rehoboth. I've done a lot of Maryland, a lot of Delaware. I've done some PA. Philadelphia, Roxborough, Pittsburgh. I've put applications into a lot of places that have income-based apartments. Different counties, different states, because I'm homeless. But I'm on a lot of waiting lists, you know. I've been to different social services in Maryland and Delaware. You know, so my plan is to get into a shelter and have them try to help me with housing. And if I can get into some type of housing, I'll be okay. Whether it's transitional housing or an apartment, my car can sit and I can save the money to get it repaired. I'll just repair it when I can repair it. In the meantime, it'll just sit. But it won't be driven or damaged any more than what it is. So housing is my first priority. How did I sleep? Well, I took my medicine. I passed out. It didn't take me long to go to sleep. And I did sleep. I zonked out because I was heat exhausted. The heat really got to me yesterday, so I passed out last night. As soon as I went to sleep, I slept. I didn't wake up until it was like 7 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock when I woke up. This guy over here has got his air conditioner on. I'm most tempted to say, "Hey, can we sit in your car with you? Cool off." And my box died. I gotta find a place to charge that. So my box is dead. That cut off last night about 3, 4 o'clock, I guess. I'm originally from New Jersey. I was born and raised in Jersey, but I lived in a lot of states. Mods, can you watch the door, please? No picture profiles coming in. Can y'all watch the door, please? Yeah, I'm a Jersey girl. Oh, excuse me. I'm a Jersey girl. I was born at Cooper Hospital in Camden, New Jersey. No. No. Like I said, my family were gypsies and they moved. Good morning, Brandon. My family was gypsies and they moved a lot. My mother's... I gotta watch how I say this. My mother's mother married a really powerful man. Really powerful. She was raised by her grandmother, but my mother would borrow money from the family, and of course we'd be on the run. So, and they're not the kind of people you want to borrow money from and not pay it back. They're definitely not the kind of people you want to borrow money from and not pay it back. Because they don't care if you're family or not. When they want their money, they want their money and they want their interest too. So. But I'm outcasted because I was with an African American man, so I got ditched from the portfolio. I was disowned because Italian people don't go for that. Yeah, but Italian people don't go for that. You know, they're very strict when it comes to their nationality. They're very, very strict. I mean, I still talk to my grandfather, and he loves me, but you know, he pretty much disowns me, and he's not happy with me. Even though my fiance husband of 25 years is gone. Like I said, we wasn't legally married, but me and Michael were together 25 years. We had the house, we had the car, we had the dogs, we had the bank accounts, we had everything. The only thing that kept us from being legally married was a piece of paper. So, even though Michael's gone, my Gramps is still not happy with me. You know, he still likes to use that word that I'm not going to repeat. I don't like it. I don't say it, and I'm not going to repeat it. But yeah, I hear about it all the time. I can't believe you were a da 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 da. And I just tell them, you know, love doesn't have a color. My husband was great to me. You know what I mean? He treated me like a queen. And I tried to get my grandfather to see that. I was spoiled rotten. My husband gave me everything I needed. He took care of me. But my grandfather still didn't want to hear that. He wasn't Italian. So, he said, I'd have rather seen you with a Jewish man. And they don't like Jews either. They don't like Jewish people either. But can't make everybody happy, And love doesn't have a color to me. When you're in love with somebody, it doesn't have a color. You love the person and you're in love with the person for the person. Not for their skin color, not for what they have, not for what they're about. You're in love with a person because you're in love with a person because of the way they treat you and, how good they are to you. And that's the way it was with my husband. My husband was a very good man. And he treated me like a queen, and he was good to me. So if my family doesn't like it, there's nothing I can do. And if I had to do it all over again, would I choose him? Yes, I'd choose him again. And that's something I'm asked. My grandfather said, if you had it to do all over again, would you choose another one? I said, yes, I would. Yes, I would. So I was disowned from the portfolio. So, and the Duke don't play. When the Duke speaks, he speaks. But like I said, he'll talk to me. Because I'm his granddaughter through my grandmother. But he's not happy with me. It is what it is. If my grandmother was alive, I wouldn't be in this situation. Because my grandmother wouldn't see me in this car. My grandmother would have definitely rented an apartment in her name or co-signed for me to get an apartment. More than likely, I would have gotten the apartment in my name, but my grandmother would have co-signed for me. My grandmother wouldn't see me living in this car because I was her only granddaughter. And my grandmother spoiled me. And my mother hated that. My mother hated that my grandmother gave me more attention and did more for me than what she did for her. But if my grandmother was alive, I wouldn't be in this car. I'd have an apartment, and if I was having a hard time meeting my bills, my grandmother would have paid them. She'd have been on my case, but she'd have helped me. She helped me before when I left my family. I was, how old was I when I had? I think I was 20. I was 20 or 21 because it was when I was pregnant with Duke. I was pregnant with Duke and I was in a shelter because my parents were, they A-word me, and I went to a shelter for protection, and me and my children, and I got an apartment, and my grandmother helped me. My grandmother, she took me out and she got me a TV, she got me a living room set, she got me bunk beds for my kids, she got me dishes. My grandmother helped me when I got my apartment back then. And she told me to stay away from my parents. That's her own daughter, but she told me to stay away from them because they do nothing but bring me down. They're not good for me. They're not good for me. And my grandmother told me to stay away from them. Yeah, my grandmother was really special. She was. And that's what my mom hated about our relationship. My mom, she despised my relationship with my grandmother. Like, really despised it. But if my grandmother was alive today, I wouldn't be in this car. I can tell you that.
I know my grandma. I didn't call her grandma, I called her my mom. My dad's mom, I called Granny, and my mom's mom, I called my mom. So if my mom was here, I wouldn't be in this situation. Because she would co-sign for me to get an apartment. And she would have paid my rent if I'd have had to. Or half of my rent. She'd have made me at least pay half of it, and she'd have paid the other half. And she'd have been laying my children out for putting me out. So, and, she helped my mom. She helped my mom too. She helped my mom a lot of times. She paid my mom's rent. She would pay my mom's debts. She would, pay my mom's debts. She would pay our electric bill. She bought my mom a car. She bought my mom a washer and dryer. So she did a lot for my mom. But my mom was my mom. My mom was a fucking gypsy. She was a real gypsy. How old's my grandfather? I believe my grandmother was 63 when she passed. My grandfather's in his 80s. I call him Gramps. We call him Gramps. He's in his 80s somewhere. Could be in 90s. His brothers own real estate in South Philadelphia. They got a lot of his family has, they got a lot of businesses. So No, my grandfather passed away a couple years ago. From what I heard. Yeah, he passed away a couple years ago. And I was told I wasn't allowed to come to the funeral. So, it is what it is. I didn't go. My brother's the only one that went. My brother and his wife. The rest of us kids didn't go. My brother got everything. My brother got all the furniture. My brother got all the money. My brother got everything. He was supposed to give us kids some, but he didn't. My brother got everything. Him and his wife. No. Like I said, I don't talk about that side of my family because, Uncle Louis still alive. He's like in his 70s, probably. Catherine, his sister, is she still alive? I don't know if she's still alive or not. But like I said, I didn't fool with that side of the family. I know his mother's passed. I know his one brother passed. I know his one brother's still alive. I can't remember if his sister's still alive or if she passed, but I heard she passed recently too. So I don't know, because they were all old. They were like in their 80s and 90s. So it is what it is. I just wish my grandmother was still here, because I miss her. You know, and as much as I didn't get along with my mom, I wish my mom was here too. You know, I didn't get along with her, but I wish she was here so I could call her. You know, days that I'm depressed and I'm down, you know, I would call her. You know, I mean, we would have some type of decent conversation before we got into a fight, but she's still my mother at the end of the day, and I still miss her. You know, and I'm not gonna lie about it. She was my mom. But you know, no, but my grandfather passed away. Yep, my grandmother passed away first, and then my grandfather passed I don't know, maybe 10 years later, because he had a girlfriend. He had had a girlfriend after my grandmother. Or a friend. I don't know if you want to call her girlfriend, but he had a friend. I never met her. I never talked to her, but my brother said that he had a friend, girlfriend, whatever. But it wasn't none of my business. I could have cared less. Because they, like I said, they already chucked me off anyway. I don't talk to that side of the family. My mom did, but I didn't. Like I said, she would always borrow money from them, and we'd be on the run. And they're the type of people you don't want to borrow money from. Thank you. You know? They're definitely the type of people you don't want to borrow money from. Trust me, we had some crazy experiences as kids. You know? We lived up in, what was that? New Ringgold? I think it was New Ringgold, Pennsylvania. I remember that incident very well. It was freaking scary. And when I say scary, it was scary. We lived in New Ringgold, and my mom had borrowed money from them again. They found out where we lived, and they told my mother they wanted their money, and they shot our house up one night. My mom and dad packed up the next day and was gone. They got a U-Haul trailer and packed what they could in there, and they were gone again. You know, and then we lived in Pennsylvania. We went from there to Pennsylvania. We lived in that house by the railroad tracks. We were only there about 3 months. They found us there, and they showed up, beat my dad up, and of course we had to leave from there. We moved somewhere else. Finally, my mom paid them back. Everything was cool for a while, but then she borrowed money again. So we were always on the run from her family, from her mom's husband's family. You know, they bought school buses. We lived in pop-ups. You know, we had a pop-up. My dad had a pop-up in a station wagon, and we would just go to different campgrounds every weekend. And then when the pop-up started leaking and it wasn't any good, my dad bought a bus, and he ripped the seats out of it and used the kitchen stuff and the beds from the pop-up in the bus. He built bunk beds, and my mom and dad's bed was in the far back, and then my dad built 4 sets of bunk beds for all of us kids, and then in the front we had a sofa and a chair and a love seat, and then my dad had like a little kitchenette. It had a sink, a stove, and a refrigerator. and we lived in the bus for a while. Then when the bus broke down, my dad bought a motorhome, and we were in a motorhome. We went from there to, I think, Delaware City. I think we went to Delaware City. We lived in Delaware City for a while. And that's where me and my husband separated, my kid's father. That's where we separated because he was living with me there. He came home from the military, and he was living with me there. And he had a blanket wrapped around him. It was like a goose feathered down blanket that you lay on top of your bed, and he had himself wrapped in it, and he had a can of gasoline because we had a wood stove, and he had the blanket wrapped around me. He threw the gas in the stove. I told him don't do that, but he did it anyway. And when he threw the gas in the stove, from the drips of the gas, when the gas hit the fire, it went whoosh, and then the flame of fire came down the drips of gas and caught the blanket on fire and caught him on fire, and he went in the hospital for second, third, fourth degree burns. And when he was in the hospital, that's when I left him. And then when he got out of the hospital, he went to live with my friend Debbie that comes on here. He lived with Debbie and her mom until he went back home to PA. But that's when I left my kid's father. So, and I was pregnant with my daughter when I left him. But, you know, they're all mixed times. It's not the right time, you know, but that's some of the memories I have. We lived in Tamaqua. They had come and got us from school, and that's when my mom paid them back, because they had come and got us kids from school. It was my it was my uncle's, I think it was my uncle's brothers or his cousins, somebody. Anyway, it was part of the family that come and got us kids from school. They had me and my two oldest brothers, and they had us in a limousine, and they called my mom and told my mom, I have your kids. You're either going to pay me your money or you're not going to see your kids. So my mom and dad got up the money and they paid them, and then they got us back. But it was scary. It was definitely scary, and it's all true. We did live a lot of places. We did. We've lived in Florida. We lived in Mississippi. We lived in Louisiana. We lived in Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Virginia. We were in Mississippi for a hot minute. Jersey. Yeah, we lived a lot of places. And any of my family could verify it. My mom and dad were gypsy. Well, it wasn't so much my dad. It was my mom. My mom was a gypsy. My mom was a gypsy. She was... my mom was a well-organized con artist. She was. I mean... That's the only way I can say it. My mom was a con artist, you know. My mom, you know, she did a lot of people wrong. She did a lot of people wrong in her day. And my dad didn't like it. My dad and her used to fight all the time about it. My dad hated it, and that's why my dad stayed on the road. You know, he was a truck driver. And when he was doing firewood and logging, they stayed in the woods. My dad hated being around my mom, you know, but they couldn't live with each other and they couldn't live without each other. That's just the way they were, you know. My dad probably felt he couldn't find anybody else. My mom probably felt she couldn't find anybody else. They never left each other, but they would fight from the time they got up in the morning until the time they went to bed. They'd throw coffee at each other, canned goods, clams. Yeah, they did all kind of shit to each other. You know, my mom ran him and his girlfriend over on a motorcycle one time. Yeah, she had us in a station wagon and she caught my dad with a bitch on the back of the bike and she ran him over. That was tragic to watch too. My parents did some crazy shit in their day, and I'm not gonna lie. You know, my dad caused my mom to have nervous breakdowns. My mom had several nervous breakdowns. I remember her being committed a couple of times, at least 3 that I can remember, where she was committed into hospitals for her mental health issues. She came home, things would be okay for a little while, and then they'd be right back to normal. What I would say was abnormal, but it was normal for them. You know, my mom and dad did some shit in their day, and I'm not going to say they didn't, but my mom was a true con artist. My mom could sit at the table with you, and before she left your house, she'd have everything in your house. She'd have all your money, and you'd be sitting there butterball naked, looking at yourself, asking yourself what the fuck just happened. That's the type of person my mother was. You know, and it's embarrassing to say. You know, it was embarrassing growing up. And I swore I didn't want to be like my parents. And that's why I raised my children different. You know, when I had my kids, when my kids lived with me, I taught my kids responsibility. You know, they went to school. When they came home from school, they did their homework. After they did their homework, they changed their school clothes. Then they could go outside and play. Then they came in, they did their couple of chores. Then they took their baths and they went to bed. All 3 of my kids were in bed by 9 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. Friday nights they could stay up late. Saturday nights they could stay up late. Sunday nights they were back on their ritual. And my kids had everything. They had their own room, their own TVs. Back then we had house phones, so they had house phones in their room. You know, my kids had everything they wanted. My kids didn't want for nothing. You know, I worked, I took care of my kids, I supported my kids. The only time I wasn't with my kids is, you know, when I was locked up, when I got locked up for doing stupid shit. You know, I would do a couple months here, a couple of months there. You know, but I did what I had to do as a mother. You know, and I did what I was taught. I did what I learned. You know, I mean, my mom did the same thing. You know, my mom, if we needed food and she didn't have the money, she'd go write a check and she'd buy food. So that was something I learned. Okay, well, my kids don't have no food. I can go to the store and write a check. And back then, a lot of people, the new generation won't understand it, but the Gen X people will understand it. Back in the day, you could go to any grocery store and write a check and post date it. Like today is whatever date today is. What's today's date? I mean, this was years and years ago. You can't do it today, but you used to be able to do it years ago. Say today's the 20th. And I go into the store. I could say to the manager, can I post date the check until Friday? Today's what, Thursday? Can I post date the check until the 22nd? Yeah, sure. So when you write the check for the food, you put on there the 22nd. So therefore the store can't deposit your check until the 22nd. So by the 22nd, the money would be in there, so the check would clear. And if it didn't clear, they would call me and say that the check came back insufficient funds and I needed to take care of the check. So I would pay the check and pay the $35 return fee, whatever it was. And I was good. You know, but I did things that I'm not proud of, that I learned from my mom, you know, but I tried teaching my kids not to do it. You know, my mom taught me how to steal when I was young. You know, my mom would take me in the store and she'd put meat and steaks and hamburger and hot dogs in my clothes and in my coat, and I'd have to walk out to the car and put it in the car. That's the kind of things my mom taught me, and I remember the first time I stole for myself, and it was embarrassing. It was totally embarrassing. The first time I ever stole for myself, I was probably 12. I was probably 11 or 12. And the first time I stole for myself, my mom embarrassed the hell out of me. I went in the store, and it was back in the late 70s. It was in the 70s. Because I was young. So I'm going to say it was the 70s. Back in the 70s, they had these shoes called clogs. I didn't block you. Somebody else must have blocked you. So anyway, I went to the store, and back in the 70s, there was a thing. I'm talking when I was a child, Kim. As a child, I was young. I was a teenage mom. Anyway, I wanted a pair of clogs. I don't know who remembers them. I don't know how old people are on here. But they had these shoes called clogs. And they wasn't the ones that you slip on with the little buckle. It was the whole clog. And it was the whole leather. And I wanted a pair of those. You remember them, Wendy? So I went in the store and I changed my shoes. I took off my flip-flops and I put the clogs on. And when I was leaving the store, I got caught by security. And my mother came into the office because they called her in. They had to announce for my mom. I think it was Kmart. It was Kmart or Jamesway, one of them stores. And my mom came into the office, and I tried getting my mom to lie for me. I was like, Mom, you told me to do it. She said, no, I didn't. I didn't tell you to steal them clogs. Why would I tell you to steal clogs for yourself? My mom embarrassed the shit out of me, y'all. Like, literally embarrassed the shit out of me. I didn't steal for a long time after that. I didn't. I wouldn't even take a pack of gum. Because my mother embarrassed me so bad that I never wanted to steal again. And if my mother wanted me to steal, I would tell her no. I would get whippings. Because my mom would be like, do it. And I'd say no, because when I stole the clogs, I got in trouble. I'm not doing it. She says, I'm telling you to do it. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. And I would run out to the car to my dad, and I would tell my dad she was trying to make me steal. Because after that, I didn't want to steal anymore. Because, she embarrassed me. She had me stealing for her, and I stole something for myself, and she didn't want me to have it. And I got mad at her, so I wouldn't help her steal anymore. Yeah, they were, everybody had them, and I wanted a pair. My mom wouldn't buy me a pair. So, you just tried to steal a week ago? No, I didn't, Kimmy. No, I didn't. Anyway, I wanted them, and she wouldn't let me have them. So I didn't steal from the store for a long, long time. A long time. And then when you couldn't steal from the stores anymore, my mom came up with another solution. She would change price tags in the store. My mom did a lot of stuff. And I've done stuff, like I said, as a young mother, but I was in my teenage years. I was in my 20s. I did stuff that I'm not proud of. I'm not. I'm not proud of it. But we all make mistakes. But one thing I can say, I can sit here and say that I'm not perfect. I've done a lot of stuff in my life, and it's embarrassing. It's nothing to be proud of. But one thing that I did try to teach my children is don't follow the road that I did. I didn't want them, learning the things that my mom taught me as a child. My parents were manipulators. They knew how to manipulate people. Yeah. As a person that my mom was, my mom always, she always found a way to do shit. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, she taught us kids how to do stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I'm not proud of it. But do I do it? No, I don't. If I go in the store, I pay for everything. Just like that day they called Walmart on me. First of all, it said that because I had given Brooklyn a toy, I found a little toy for Brooklyn, and I pulled the tag off it and sat it on top of my dog food. And people was like, oh, she's not going to pay for that. She's not going to pay for that. She's going to steal it. Watch. No, I didn't. I paid for it. When I got to the register and saw people stand there, and I scanned one or two items and the light kept coming on, I sat on the cart and I told the woman to scan it. I said, I'm not dealing with it, because I knew that somebody had called because it was loss prevention. And I said to the woman, I said, you go ahead and scan it. And I let her check everything in my bag. I let her check everything in my cart, and she scanned everything. And then people was like, oh, you stole the dog harness. You stole the dog harness. No, I put the dog harness back. There was a couple of things that I picked up and put in my cart that I did not want. And when I stopped before I went to the register, I took stuff out of the cart and laid it up on top of the clothes that I didn't want. Because I was sitting there adding my money up. And I was like, nah, because I got this, I'm not going to get this. Because I got this, I'm not going to get this. And I took 2 or 3 things out of the cart and I laid it up on the clothes. And then I went through the register. And like I said, after I scanned 2 or 3 things, the big things, the light kept coming on, alert. And I knew what it was. So I sat on the cart and I had the lady scan everything. And when she scanned it, I paid for everything. So everything was paid for when I left that store. Like I said, if I can't afford it, I don't get it. I don't need to steal anything. If I can't afford to get it, I don't get it. I don't get it. It's not worth it anymore because they have cameras and people don't realize it, but they watch you when even self-checkout, they watch you. There's cameras, So if you're scanning dog food and it comes up a t-shirt, it's going to be alerted to security. So there's no way of scamming Walmart unless you're a pro at this new bullshit. But I don't do it. So, but I know for a fact everything that you scan at Walmart, you're on camera. So no, I don't steal from Walmart. I don't steal from any of the stores. I don't have to. Like I said, if I can't pay for it, I don't get it. Yeah, you will. You'll get caught. People think they can get away with it. But first of all, whether you pay for cash, credit card, debit card, they have cameras. And they can literally go back to the time you come in the store, and they can follow your vehicle, and they can get your vehicle tag number and show up at your house. That's how boosters get caught. That's how Duke got caught. He would push shopping carts full of shit out loaded in the car, and he thought he was free and clear. And they, they rolled the cameras back, got the tag number, and they found out where he lived. Or where the person lived that took him. And of course, they would rat Duke out. So, but Duke had an addiction. So in Duke's time of addiction,